a lot of fun with Reed from Dave and Adam's Card World. Did you get a chance to watch that show, John?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a dream job. I mean, I'm involved in small business lending as my full-time job, but to own a card store and then to be able to go around the country and look at these collections and buy collections, especially since he's involved more with vintage than modern. And he also has, I guess, a Dale Murphy collection going. So he speaks to me in terms of the player collector as well. So no, it was a great show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very relaxing. And actually, Bobby Burrell sent me a picture of Reed from Bobby's vintage hockey collector book, and I'll just show everybody if you watch that last episode. There's the picture, and he does look younger there. Yeah. I'm guessing that's from his original stint with Dave and Adams back, which I had that written down. With that,
it was 2010 to 20. Yeah, he was with him for up to 2010.
Until 2010, that's right. You took a note. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I love to ask my after hours guests, was there anything that really jumped out to you that kind of took you by surprise or you found super interesting from that last discussion?
Well, I loved his story about that mom and pop deal, that IGA find that he had, sort of like not quite an attic find that you hear out there, but just to develop that relationship with that family was a cool story.
Yeah, I thought so too. And I actually spent some time with him a couple nights ago, and he told me several more stories that we just didn't have time to get to tonight. Yeah. And even after the show just ended, he said, yeah, we didn't get to a bunch of things. I said, no, I realized, I know we didn't. The chat was so active, but we decided we'll have him back on probably at some point in the new year, which it seems funny to say new year already, but
I know, gosh.
Yeah. But we'll get him on in 2022, hopefully in Q1 at some point. And I even said to him, listen, you're going to be out there doing a lot of things. I said, not that you're only thinking about coming back on this show with me, but to the extent that something happens, you're like, I got to make sure to talk about that on Jeremy's show or, on Sports Cards Live. I said, just please write that down. Okay, yeah. We'll see if he remembers you, but that would be pretty fun. Well,
yep.
Okay, so you are John Reichard. You are Wade Boggs Fan on YouTube.
Yep.
You are a Wade Boggs super collector. You are a true collector.
Yeah.
You do not buy and sell. You do not sell very much.
Right. Yeah. There was a question in the previous show with Reed that someone asked about, selling to buy new things for your collection, some things that you don't. I don't necessarily consider myself a collector, more of a hoarder. I mean, we had talked about this. I bet you I've sold probably no more than 30 cards. I've been collecting for 43 years. And I've probably sold 30 cards, regretted every single one of them, bought back 2 of them, not the same ones, but I mean, the same card because I regretted selling them. I don't know. I could easily fund my Wade Boggs collection by selling some of my other stuff. I just can't part with them. I don't know why.
Yeah, because you're a collector. You love your cards. I hear it too. It's similar for me as a collector. I've sold a couple cards. When I found out that I was having a baby and I bought a new house. Okay, I'm gonna sell a few cards, and of course I regret it. Never mind that they were a few key Hall of Fame rookies, a couple football cards, but also, of course, where values have gone since I did that. So it's tough not to. But we can only make decisions with information we have at that time for reasons that were real at that time.
I was just getting through the end of a divorce, wanted to pay some things off, get my life back in order and stuff. So I said, hey, I have some cards here, non-Wade Boggs cards, but I sold a bench rookie, a Joe Morgan rookie, 52 Topps Ted Williams, number 250. I bought one of those back. Yeah. But and I actually did a YouTube video of cards I regretted selling. And I just went through because I still remember I have a list of all the ones I sold, and like looking back, and of course with today's prices, are like, oh my gosh, I only got what for them? But back then, I got a good deal. But
the cards I sold when I bought my house were, again, I had to move into a bit of a bigger house. I lived in like a bachelor, and okay, now I'm moving in with my wife, and I need, we got a kid on the way, maybe do a second kid. So I needed more bedrooms. So I sold off, and these all, who I sold all my cards to that I'm about to list, which was, I won't remember them all, but I sold them to Brian Gray for one of his repack products at some point. It goes back to probably 2000. This would have been the summer of 2016. My SP Authentic Peyton Manning PSA 9 rookie, my Emmett Smith Score Supplemental PSA 10, my Barry Sanders PSA 10. I think I sold him a Nolan Ryan rookie, a Joe Morgan. I think you mentioned a Joe Morgan. I sold him a Joe Morgan rookie. There was a list of about 15 cards, and I'd love to have those back for the prices I sold them for sure. But hey, but
it's a different mindset. There are various aspects of collecting. Okay, you can be a collector, you can be a flipper, you can be an investor, you can be a combination of the two, and each one is a different mindset. I mean, for me, it's the acquisition and hold of the card. For others, it's, hey, let me go out there, try to get a nice deal, maybe buy something raw, get it graded, see if I can make some money, take that money, get something else, maybe sell cards that they opened a box, got some big hits. Hey, I'm going to sell that. I'm not interested in that because I collect this and I can use that money. There's various things. And there are people out there that say, oh, I hate investors. I hate flippers. To me, it's all part of the hobby. It's what you enjoy doing. And in some sense, I think that all of those types of people are needed within the hobby because it keeps cards, well, except in my case, keeps cards flowing within the marketplace. Now I get, and they're out there.
But John, you're also an end user. The hobby needs end users too, right?
Yeah.
Where, as you were saying, we're all these different approaches are part of the overall ecosystem. I squarely believe that. As long as there are, as long as people have good intentions, which they don't all, we know that you're going to have bad actors in anywhere there's commerce, especially in something like this. So, but I mean, I often talk about the investor collector continuum and how, nobody's on either extreme end, or very few people are. You may be one of those people. Yep. But you know what? It's not that I still think it's a continuum, but it's not like a linear continuum, because you can have both. You can do both at the exact same time.
Yeah.
In just with different types. Maybe I buy and sell basketball, but I only collect hockey, which isn't the story for me. But there are you can be in various places on that continuum without
be a
having
hybrid.
to pick one point.
Yeah, you can be a hybrid because you can, on a side thing, you can buy and sell to quote unquote make money, but that what you make money on, you put into your personal collection.
Bingo.
And another. Breakers get a bad rap in certain circles. How else are you going to get those singles out in the marketplace? You buy into a break. Okay, you don't get maybe the cards you want, or even if you do, whatever, and they get put on eBay. Well, how do I find cards? How do I find new Wade Boggs cards? Well, maybe it's because people enter into a break for the Yankees and pull a Wade Boggs, auto patch featuring him in a Yankee uniform. And that's not what that one who won the break wanted, so they put it up on eBay. Well, that gives me an opportunity now to buy that Wade Boggs card.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
No, you nailed it there, John. Because you're right. Some breakers, or I will say, some breakers get a bad rap, and some people put a bad rap on all breakers. But without these cards being released into the wild, guys who are real singles buyers like myself
and me,
I rely on breakers, and I rely on their customers to not want what they get out of their pack, because we need you to not want what you're getting out of that break, so you can have it listed and find the right home for it.
Yeah, because someone who buys into a Yankees team, they want an Aaron Judge. Wade Boggs? What? I don't want a Wade Boggs. I'll take it. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody to Sports Cards Live After Hours. I am happy to have John Reichard join us tonight. Been looking forward to this because, you know, when I started off the show, John, back like a year and a half ago almost, I had every show was designated as a collector's perspective episode or an industry insiders episode. I got away from that relatively quick, and I do have collectors on, but having you on, I'm like, this is one of those, this is nostalgic for me, going back 18 months or so to one of those original collector's perspective episodes, which is just nice because, you know, every time you bring on someone from the industry, there's bound to be some controversy or some area, some level of just, I don't know, discomfort, you know, but when you have on a true collector, it can just be nice and relaxing. And as Joe Perot pointed out in the last episode, it was a nice vibe, and I'm happy for that and enjoying it. So glad to have you on, as I've mentioned.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, let's go say hello to the chat. Please see who we got. Lapper says, "Where's the after hours Pringles? I was eating a tin of Pringles." Yeah. Well, Lapper, I ate those and spoiled my dinner this afternoon, but they were the Wendy's spicy chicken, so I've already been through there. Jeff McMahon says, "Great to see John on Sports Cards Live."
Thanks, Jeff.
Terry Fortune likes the setup behind you, John. Very impressive. Hello, Mark Santucci says, "First
Hi,
time
Mark.
on Sports Cards Live." Is Mark a friend of yours?
Mark is a very good follower of my channel. Yes.
Mark, welcome to my channel now on Sports Cards Live. Very happy to have you on board for the evening and hopefully longer. David G says, "Good evening, and was John upset when Boggs joined the Yankees?"
A little, because I grew up a Red Sox fan. My mom's from Massachusetts originally, and always grew up. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I couldn't get Red Sox on TV down here. But when we'd go up for vacations, I used to watch the Red Sox, and it was just all obviously Red Sox up in Massachusetts. And I always saw Wade as a Red Sox player. So I was a little disappointed when the Red Sox did not re-sign him after the, I think it was the 92 season. But I am glad that he was able to get a World Series ring with the Yankees. So yeah, I'm glad in that aspect, but he'll always be a Red Sox to me.
Yeah. There you go, David G. Terry Fortune says, "I can relate to the hoarding too." Love it. And we got Victor's back. My guy, Victor.
Victor.
Says, "Hi, John. Great to see you on SCL." So I love seeing that. Tom Bullard loved Larkin, Boggs, Smith, Clark. Grew up on all of them. Right on. Daniel A. loved the Chicken Man when I was a kid. Vintage Oddball Card says, "John is the man, a true collector." Yes.
Thanks,
sir.
Rick.
Yeah, that's really nice. Really nice. Mark says, "I sold my Henderson, one of them, and I regret it back in the 90s. Mark makes mistakes." 1980s rookie.
Yeah.
Mark makes mistakes. Okay, talking to the third person. I got it now. Yeah. I got it, Mark. Love it. Love it. Tigers, good evening to you. Joe says, "Has John ever met Wade?" This, you know, Joe is good at
mind reading. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Has John ever met Wade Boggs or secured an in-person auto? What is his most prized Wade Boggs piece? Well, I think this is the perfect timing for you to tell a couple stories.
Yep. When it comes to player collectors, depending on who you collect, I'm fortunate enough that I'm collecting someone who's currently living, and I've had the great fortune of meeting Wade 6 times. I was hoping for a 7th at this year's National, but he had a scheduling conflict and wasn't able to make it. But I have met him 6 times. I've gotten stuff signed by him in person. And one funny story there is I've seen him at the National in 2015 and 2019, but he also does a show called Yankee Palooza in northern New Jersey. So former Yankees, a couple current Yankees go to that show. And so he's always invited up. So for me, it's like a 4-hour drive. So that's where I've seen him the most. So I went out there and I took a Yankees jersey for him to sign. And by that time, this was maybe like the 4th or 5th time that I had met him. And so we're just chatting. I get in line and I tell him what I want on the jersey. And we just started chatting. And I follow him on Twitter. He follows me and stuff. And so I knew that he and his family recently got a Yorkie, and my wife and I got a Yorkie as well. So we're talking about our pets and just having a nice little conversation. So he's writing and stuff, and he says, "Here you go." I said, "Thank you." I shake his hand. I said, "This is wonderful." I drive all the way home, and I go to take a picture to put on social media, and it says, "To John, thanks for being a great fan." Nothing. He actually forgot to sign his name. We were just chatting, and he was just doing that. Yep. Hey, that sounds good. And I'm like, oh, great. So I don't have his autograph now. So I reach out to him on Twitter, send him a private message. I said, Wade, and I sent him a picture. I said, Wade, in our conversations, you actually forgot to sign your name. He goes, oh, my bad. I said, can I send it down to you? Because I have his address down in Tampa. And says, can I just send it down to you where you sign it? He says, yeah, absolutely. Send it down to me. So I sent it down to him with a couple of pictures of in-person photos I had of him. And so he did a great job, signed it with the same color ink as the inscription. So it looks like it was done at the same time, signed my other stuff for me and sent it back. So that was an interesting, funny story. But my most prized Boggs piece is probably, I have game used bats from Red Sox, Yankees, and Devil Rays, but that Red Sox game used bat, it's from the early 90s, past his batting career years, batting title years. But that one is just, he's known for the pine tar on the handle in the middle of the bat, and that thing is drenched with pine tar. I mean, it has just, and ball marks and stuff. Yeah, that Red Sox gamer is, from memorabilia, is my prized possession.
Very cool. Very well. That pine tar makes it really unique for sure.
Yeah.
Lapper says that's a great way of looking at breakers. Definitely a different perspective than I had before you said that. Hey, always happy to share a new perspective. Overtime Grading says that's a crazy room behind you there. Yeah. And, I'm going to use this comment to segue into something else, because that is a crazy room behind you. I wanted to talk to you tonight a little bit about, when you are a dedicated hardcore player collector, and what it's like, or how you kind of relate to other hardcore dedicated player collectors of the same player. So I see the room behind you. It's very, very impressive. But in getting to know you over the last few weeks, watching some of your videos, I came across another Wade Boggs collector, and his particular Wade Boggs collection storage area room. And no offense to you, but his is one of the best. It's in the whole hobby.
I know, Rich, his Boggs Tavern. He is, if for those of you have not seen any Rich's videos of his Boggs Tavern, it's this room on steroids, probably 4 or 5 times stuff. Now a little bit, maybe twice as much room, but it is packed. He literally has stuff on the ceiling, because he's run out. He keeps buying stuff. It is a museum, and it is extremely, we call him, there's a group of us. So I've gotten to know other Boggs collectors, and we rarely fight over the same stuff, which is nice. If one of us gets something that someone else was going after, at least we know that one of us got it and we're happy for each other. So it's a nice little group of 5 or 6 of us, but we call him the Boggs Father, like the Godfather, because he's insane. Absolutely. If something has Boggs on it, he has to have it. Now, for me, I'm mainly the cards. I started off just collecting Wade Boggs cards. Few memorabilia things here and there. It wasn't until I got to know Rich around 2012, and I saw his collection. I'm like, boy, that'd be cool to maybe own some autographed photos, and maybe some jerseys, and maybe this, and then in the last 9 years, it's turned into that. So
yeah,
he's been a bad influence.
Speak a little bit about the kinship you feel with. I mean, when you collect somebody's hardcore as you do, and you're a fan of that player, and then you meet other people that share that, what does that feel like? Like, what kind of relationship do you automatically have with those other Wade Boggs player collectors? And I ask this, I want you to, in my mind, you're speaking on behalf of player collectors of all sports, of all different players who found those other player collectors.
Well, one, it makes you realize that you're not nuts. because you're like, okay, I'm collecting all these cards of this one player. Like, what am I doing? And they're like, oh, you do that too. Oh, you did. And so there's that camaraderie. All right. So you automatically have a connection with that person, their collection, their passion for the collection. And what's also neat is in my group, there are some that go after sort of like the one of ones and the high end, really rare cards. I've gotten away from that, gone into other areas. There's ones that, just deal with bulk. They'll buy as many, even, duplicates or whatever. They just want as many Boggs cards. I'm focused on, different. So we all get together. We all get along. There's not, there's, like I said, some competition because we're all looking to get some cards, but we're texting each other daily of saying, look what I got in the mail. Look what I got. Or just the other day, someone had a question. They saw something on eBay or somewhere, and they didn't know what it was, or I've never seen this before. So I got into my master checklist. I'm like, yeah, this is from 2005, and there's only it was a backdoor thing that wasn't a complete card, and he bought it because it was unique. I said, yeah, the reason why you haven't seen one before is there's serial number to 3, and there was a version out of 1. He didn't know about it at all, but I had it on my checklist, so now he knew what that card was. So we share information and knowledge, and we meet up with each other at the National. It's been a blast. So it's been great being in touch with other player collectors.
And would you consider, I think it's Rich that you were mentioning, he has the Wade Boggs Tavern. Would you consider him to be a good friend now?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I had mentioned her earlier when I sold the cards, I was going through a divorce. I got remarried 3 years ago, and he lives south of Chicago. I actually stayed near him rather than stay near the convention at this year's National, just to be able to hang out with him and hang out with him and his wife and see the Boggs Tavern again. But I actually had him as my groomsman in my wedding. He drove in from Chicago to be a part of my wedding. So wow. We've become very good friends.
See, that is just a testament to how the hobby, the community in the hobby, it can be such an enhancement to life in general. Yeah. The hobby, it's more than just the cards. We always have the cards to fall back on, but it's more than just the cards. As John Newman from Sports Card Nation says, the hobby is the people and the relationship. So you're lucky to have that. That's really awesome.
This was before YouTube too. I mean, I've met so many people through YouTube, not only online, but I finally got to meet some of them in person. Unfortunately, I saw you at the National, didn't have a chance to introduce myself. I think you were maybe hanging out with Mike Baseball Collector at the time. I didn't want to interrupt, but I had a chance this year to actually meet some of all these great YouTubers. But I was in a issue of Beckett. They had a Supercollector issue back in 2012, and I had my email address in there. And Rich saw it, and he's like, there's another Boggs collector out there. So he reached out to me and said, hey, my name is Rich, blah, blah, blah. And again, since then, we've developed a great friendship. So, but YouTube definitely has just enhanced my collecting experience. Yeah.
I've got YouTube on my list. I want to get to YouTube, but before, I just want to share this with you because this is a pretty funny story. Terry Fortune says, Boggs comes hunting up in this area. Tipped my wife $100 US. This says he's in Canada at the bar one night. He goes on to say, she came home and asked me if I knew who Wade Boggs was. So that's pretty funny. And I mean, that's the kind of story that to you, John, next time you see Wade Boggs, you can tell him that you heard this story because it's pretty neat. Vintage Card says, funny story regarding him forgetting to sign. You are lucky to collect a nice guy for sure. Amish Dave Archer says, nice to see you. Hello to you.
Hi, Dave.
James Fertitta, night crazy room. Jeremy, have to step up. I guess I could step up a little bit on my background for sure. No doubt. Love it. DR says, at what point in your collecting journey is a line of demarcation to being a super collector of a player? That's a good question.
Yeah. I not to plug my channel, but I actually did a YouTube video on this. being a super collector is almost like a self-given title. I mean, some people say you have to have so many different. Someone threw out a number there where you have to have at least 500 different cards of a particular player. Well, if it's a newer player, they may not even have 500 cards. Well, then is it a certain percentage of the cards? Well, if you're, I forget who the player was. It was either Mike Trout or Jeter. Has like 35,000 cards. Well, what if you only have 25% of them? I mean, to me, that's still a lot of cards. But from a percentage, I only have a quarter of his cards. Well, you can't be a super collector then. I think it's just in the eye of the beholder. If you feel that your collection, based on the number of cards that are out there, the uniqueness of your collection, how dedicated you are in growing your collection. Yeah. So it may even just become dedication that, hey, my focus is all I buy are Wade Boggs cards. All right. I may not have as many as someone else that collects Wade Boggs, but to me, that would qualify maybe as being a super collector. So there's no one definition in my mind out there for it.
Yeah, I think it's something I don't think it can be measured. I don't like the percentage kind of applications. I don't think that's fair. I think it really comes down to something you can't measure, which is your level of passion for that subject. And then also the amount of time that you spend in your time budget, your hobby time budget that you spend on that particular player. I think that's a piece of it too. And then the other piece is just look behind you. You are a Wade Boggs super collector. Like it's the proof is in the pudding sometimes.
And I've been collecting his cards for 23 years. So, I mean, just the longevity. And it's,
yeah. There's several criteria, I think, and some of them you can't measure. There's no way to quantify. So a couple fun questions for you here. Todd says, is there a Boggs piece that you need or want, but you've yet to obtain? Or is there hundreds of them?
Well, in terms of a Boggs item, maybe not a card. One day, I keep telling myself, one day I want to own a game-used home Red Sox jersey. But you're talking $4,000 or $5,000 probably, especially for from maybe the early '80s during his batting title years. I actually reached out to Wade at one point and said, hey, because he sold off a lot of his memorabilia already. But I reached out to him and said, hey, do you have anything left? And I think he said he had a Red Sox home jersey. I forget, maybe in the later, early 90s or something like that. And I think he said he wanted $4,500 for it. I mean, I just don't have that type of money. I have a small monthly budget and I can't afford something like that. But one day, hopefully I will. So that's my big item. In terms of cards, I have a bucket list. And it's usually because of the price. Not that they're necessarily hard to find. Some of them are rare, but the 96 Select Certified Gold, that's in terms of player collector, if you have a player in that set, that's like the ultimate card to get. Now, there are some other ones. Donner's Crusade Red out of 25. That's high on people's list. I have one of those. But that certified mirror gold, there's only 30 copies out there. There's one on eBay, I think, right now, graded Beckett 9. I don't really care about graded, but Boggs cards. They want $1,000 for it. Hey, I could get it right now, but I can't afford it right now. So there are some cards out there that I'd love to have, but they need to be in my budget at the time.
Well, let's kind of talk about that for a second, because it was something that we were going to talk about tonight anyway, is really what, collecting on a budget and as a player collector. I was going to ask you, do you have a budget? Well, okay, we understand that you do. Yep. How do you as a collector, and I ask this because I think it's interesting for audience members, not everybody can afford to spend whatever, thousands of dollars a month on sports cards. So as someone who has a budget, how does that, how do you manage the amount of cards you want because you could spend, let's face it, I remember walking around the National last month thinking to myself, I just wish I had $250,000 on me. I didn't have close to that, right? I wish. How do you hobby with your budget?
It's hard. I mean, I can't lie. I've had to pass on so many cars I'd love to have in my collection, but I force myself to my budget. I don't spend beyond my means. There was a time in my younger days that I did, and I looked at that credit card bill and I'm like, okay, now I got to pay this. I never want to go there again. So it's so easy to just hit that buy it now or put a bid in and say, oh, I got that card. I'll worry about paying for it later. And I don't do that. So it is forced. It's hard sometimes. It really is, because I've had to pass on some really nice cards. But at the same time, sometimes that patience pays off. I've had countless times where, especially on new releases, I want to get that card. Now it went too high. I'm going to pass. Next one comes up. I'm going to pass. And I know if it's out of 25 or 50 or 75, there's going to be more that show up on eBay. Yeah. And I wait and I'm patient. And there are some times where I can pick it up for maybe half the cost of what that first person had to buy the first one off of eBay. And sometimes patience pays off. And other times my patience leads to, oh, geez, I'm not seeing them anymore on eBay, or it's maybe a year or two down, or 3 years till I see one again. But at the same time, I'm still building my Wade Boggs collection. There's still so many out there. My checklist is like close to 9,000 different Boggs cards, and I'm at 5,300. There are plenty still out there. Not as many. I mean, I go through my eBay list every night, and I just have it. And it's harder to find new ones, but it's not impossible.
So I think the morsel or the nugget of advice that I'm hearing there, because at first I was thinking to myself, well, you just need discipline, but discipline isn't that easy to exercise when you are a card collector. So then you made the point of, don't buy the first copy that shows up on eBay, which is great advice, because the first copy always goes for the most. And then it comes down from there. But then you have to actually have some intuition. You have to know when to strike a card out of 25 or 50, for example, because if you wait too long, they're going to dry up. And then the next copy that comes out is going to sell for more than the last one did.
Yeah.
Right. Because no one's seen it in so long.
It does
that.
It goes up and down. And then you may have to wait, like I said, a couple years till when someone buys that and they say, okay, I'm no longer interested in that. I want to sell those to buy something else. And then they come back on the market. I've had cards that show up that I haven't seen in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And when I see those, if they're priced reasonable, I try to go up, because I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't seen that one in forever. It's a struggle, and it's a timing issue. It is. Yeah.
And then the other thing is that as a budget collector, it's good to always know and just think, and for every collector, that there's always more cards. There's always going to be more cards to buy, unless you missed a card that was like, I don't know, the last card for a set, and there's only 1 to 10 of them. Maybe kick yourself, but in most cases you can avoid kicking yourself, I think, and just sort of wait for the next card that makes you crazy for it.
Well, and to that point, it was about a little over a year ago. I was starting to see it was harder and harder to find new Boggs cards, or ones that were in my budget that weren't just selling for crazy amounts of money. And so I'm like, what else can I do? So then that's when I started going into vintage cards, graded vintage cards of Hall of Famers. So now if I can't find something Boggs, I have another project that I can go after. And so I've been looking and building a small collection of vintage Hall of Famers, PSA graded. I just decided to go down that rabbit hole. And just recently now, I added another project, which is the more modern Topps releases, the short print image variations of Hall of Famers. Very inexpensive. I mean, I've bought a ton recently, like $4 or $5, even with shipping, maybe $6. And so I'm going after that. So I still have some focus, and in my opinion, you need focus in this hobby, whatever you want to go after. If you just start going crazy, you'll get overload. Just like the National, you see all these cards and go, I don't know what to buy.
Yeah.
So I have some focuses now beyond Wade Boggs. So if I don't see a Boggs item, I can still build my overall collection by maybe looking at a vintage card.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I want to get to a couple of comments here. Alex says, what a room. Awesome job, which for sure. Vintage Card says a Honus Wagner super collector can have just one card.
Yeah.
That's an interesting comment, because maybe you're a super collector because you spent $6 million on the card.
Yeah.
But are you really a super collector?
Yeah.
I think you need, I think one of the rules for super collectors, you have to have more than one card. More than one card. I don't know what that number is, but more than one. But I appreciate it. I think it's still a fun comment. And I wanted to come back up here to Daniel's question. Is what was it in okay, actually, before you answer this one, which is, and we'll come right back to it, but you said, what was it in particular about Boggs that made you a collector of him? So, and then I'm going to come down to Tyler's comment here, who says, my girlfriend is trying to sleep, and she just popped up and said, what's the big deal with this Boggs guy? Which that's pretty, Tyler, if she's still up, hope she's enjoying the show.
Yeah.
So what is it about Wade Boggs that made you collect him?
Well, the way I started off is I've been collecting since 1978, 43 years. And for the longest time, it was basically just buying packs. I'd get complete sets of Topps, every year. I started that in 1980, I think. So I had started a run of complete sets, but it was really just buying boxes and packs of cards. I didn't have a focus. I was just buying stuff. This was way before eBay. I'd go to my local card shop, buy some stuff, see some packs in a department store, grocery store, whatever. But then towards the late 90s, there just got to be so much product out there that, again, I got lost. I'm like, what do I go for this? Do I want to buy some of that? And I said, I need a focus. What do I want to have my collection be about? And I heard that there are these, you could collect, you can collect teams, you can collect sets, which I sort of did, or you can do a player collection. I'm like, a player, that would be fun to collect cards of just one player. And so I went through, I had cards sorted by player, and I noticed I had a pretty decent amount, maybe a couple hundred of Wade Boggs cards. And I'm like, wow, I'm a Red Sox fan. Wade Boggs is an awesome hitter. In terms of baseball players, I've always found or appreciated players who could hit for high average than they were just strong and could hit home runs. I won't go into the story of liking Reggie Jackson when I was younger, but he was either home run or strikeout. Okay. And so to me, his ability to walk, get on base, get on base hits, doubles off the green monster. I loved his attitude toward the game. And so I was like, yeah, let's go with Wade Boggs. And that's 23 years later, here I am.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And if I could say quickly,
yeah,
I've heard stories of, X player I collect and I love, and they get a chance to meet him. And they put that player on such a high pedestal of being this great athlete and stuff. And then they meet him in person. And I don't have any particular names out there, but I've heard stories of they were a little rude to me, or they were dismissive, or they didn't, want to talk to me or whatever. Honestly, I have to say, Wade is amazing and so appreciative to all his fans out there. He is you mentioned about the tip, the story about the tip, and he's just a really great guy. So that even adds to the fact that, hey, I'm not only collecting cards of a great Hall of Famer, but also a great person as well.
Right. To me, that's a prerequisite for who I collect, although I don't claim to have really done my due diligence on every player that I collect, but the few that I do. And I guess And nothing against Jeremy Roenick. I do collect his cards. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I have personal experiences where he was just an excellent guy. So, it's nice when one of the things that I think a lot of collectors fear or maybe should fear is when you collect a player and then you meet him and you're let down. That could really ruin the whole experience. So either I would almost recommend, for complete conservatism, meet the player, make sure you're collecting someone you've already met, or don't ever meet them. Don't even, unless it's just going to be a quick autograph at a card show or something, right? Where they
I don't want to necessarily mention the player, but I heard, I think maybe it's on a Facebook group or something, this subject came up, and they said that they've been collecting this player for years and finally had a chance to meet him, and they were so rude to him. And he's like, I don't want to collect his cards anymore. And it's like, this was such a letdown that, and it's just, it's a shame, and maybe you caught that player on a bad day. Maybe he was hounded by this or that or whatever. He was rushing to get here or there. You don't know, but it's an unfortunate thing that if you have a bad experience when you finally get to meet that person you've been collecting all these years for, and he doesn't live up to your expectations. But not the case with Boggs.
The awareness that you just exhibited that maybe that player had a bad day or is dealing with an issue, and they still met their obligation or their commitment to being at this event. You never know what anyone's going through at any given time. So yeah. Okay. Mike Wick makes a comment. Love the story. So glad to hear the friendships the hobby provides. He's talking about the Rich was in your wedding party. That's pretty awesome for sure. Why don't you take this question, John? Best pure hitter in your opinion, Gwynn, Boggs, or Brett?
Oh, pure hitter. It would probably be a tie between Gwynn and Boggs. Nothing against Brett. Brett had, I think, maybe better overall stats, maybe more home runs, RBIs. Gwynn and Boggs weren't really RBI machines, but they got on base. And in terms of pure hitters, I hate to say this, maybe Gwynn just slightly over. I mean, man, Gwynn could. I mean, some of his years. And normally players that toward the end of their career start, their numbers start dropping off a little bit. Man, Gwynn was just killing it even till he retired. So sorry, Wade, but maybe, and I don't think Wade would probably disagree. I mean, I think the two of them, Wade was in the American League, Gwynn was in the National League, and I saw some TV show or some special that they were both commenting about each other and said that they were glad that they were each in different leagues because the batting title battles and all that stuff, that they got to appreciate each other because they played in different leagues. So,
right. Yeah. I kind of off topic, but I used to own a Wade Boggs top 83 Topps rookie, and I love that year, sharing it with Gwynn and Ryan Sandberg as well, being the three big rookies in that set. To what extent does the eye appeal or design appeal of a rookie card cause somebody to become a player collector? I just had this idea. This might be super far-fetched. It very easily could be. But I wonder, if you're choosing between two players to collect, you might base it on the which rookie card you like better. Maybe not. Let's move on.
No, I can see that, because if you want to start off by by collecting a player, you at least start looking at their rookie card, because that's the first card that they have. And so maybe if you want just pop in my head, Thurman Munson. Well, he's on a multiplayer card. I'm like, yeah, his second year card is actually the nicest card.
Amazing.
Versus a I don't know, trying to think of another that has just their single card. You might say, wow, that looks better. I like that one better, and maybe that would tip the scale. But
that's an instance where I could definitely see it happening. I'm a big fan of many second year cards where the player's rookie was a duel, like the Nolan Ryan, the Carlton Fisk, the
Pete Rose
Munson.
The 64 Pete Rose. I picked up a copy earlier this year. Just absolutely love that card of just his face there smiling and stuff. I have no desire, even if I had the money, I just have no desire of getting a 63 rookie. I don't like the look of the card. I mean, I don't know. And for the money,
I have both. I have got the 63 and the 64, and to me, that's one of the nicest and coolest looking second years. But I love, I'm a floating head guy. It's
some people do, and that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Every YouTube thumbnail I've made has been a floating head. So I guess I have some affinity towards the 63 tops.
Willie Stargell's in that set, I think, as well. His rookie.
Who?
Willie Stargell?
Yeah, Stargell's in there too. I love the 69 Nolan Ryan. I think that is an amazing second-year card as well. Okay, let's keep going to some more comments here. Rob from Overtime Grading says that the best pure hitter was John Olerud.
He had a great swing. He did. I watched him play on the Blue Jays and the Mets. I sort of root for the Mets in the National League, and I liked when he was on the Mets. Yeah.
And Joe wants to know, what is Boggs's greatest career accomplishment? Is it lifetime batting average?
I think if you had asked him, it was getting to 3,000 hits. I think that was one of, if not the goal of his career. I think he realized how good of a hitter he was, and especially early in those 80s when he was knocking out 200 hits a season. I think he had that focus for a career accomplishment that he wanted to get to 3,000 hits.
Yeah, that's a big one for sure. Amish Dave Archer says, does John count the one-of-ones of Boggs towards the total checklist count that you're looking for, or is it obtainable cards like serial numbered to 5 or more?
Yeah, I have certain goals. I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to, I have a spreadsheet and what I have, don't have, and serial numbers and all this stuff.
Right? You fit right in, John. Welcome to the club.
Yeah. And so, Dave, I've looked at, and I have certain goals. Boggs has over 2,000 one-of-ones. I have 100. I have 174, I think. Not even close to. And some of my other Boggs collector friends have many more than I do. That's just not attainable. I don't even try to go after them anymore. So yes, I do have. Once you take out the one-of-ones, and maybe even the ones that are serial numbered 5 or less, I have a goal of cards serial numbered 10 or greater or unnumbered. My goal is to try to get to 70% of all those cards that have been made. And I'm right. I'm like at 71%.
Oh, so you're there.
So, yeah.
That's cool. So now you can start digging deeper. But I like the question because it's sort of guiding to other player collectors who might be trying to find where do you draw the line. You actually, if you have a list of every card that your players ever had, you need to draw a line somewhere. If you're sorted by print run, you got to draw the line. I think drawing it at 10 is good, but not to say that if a card under 10 came out, you wouldn't acquire it if the price was right.
It depends who you're collecting. I mean, you depending on the player, you can get cards serial numbered out of 10. I've bought some Boggs cards serial numbered out of 5. They were a base parallel, non-autographed, non-game used, and I've managed to pick them up for maybe $20. I mean, they won't break the bank, but there are some that are serial numbered out of 5 that come out from Topps tier 1 that have bat pieces and a patch and stuff, and they go for $175, $200. So I think it's more to that budget issue. If you have a player that has an extensive checklist, go through and say, hey, I can still build a great collection and still not have anything less than, serial numbered cards, less than 25. And I can still enjoy and build that collection because that stuff that's really rare is out of my price range. Yeah. And you can still be happy and build a great collection.
Let's go to Lapper's question here. If you didn't collect Wade Boggs, who would be the next guy you think you would have collected? I love this question.
I've had this question asked of me before, and I don't know if I have. I probably say, just for budget purposes, Carl Yastrzemski, another Red Sox player. I think an overlooked Hall of Famer. I know your previous.
A beautiful rookie card, by the way. A stunning rookie card.
Which I bought at this year's National.
Oh, congrats. Yeah.
Reed, your previous guest, mentioned about, I forget the term he used, but there's no such thing as a lower tier Hall of Famer or something like that. In terms of their stats, or but hey, they're Hall of Famers. But in terms of hobby interest, there are certain players that you can get at a lower price point. And Yastrzemski, there's some Red Sox collectors out there and Yastrzemski collectors. So he's not cheap, but he would probably be a guy. I've already actually started a small little Yastrzemski collection, but he has his vintage cards and he's also in a lot of modern issues. So I'm sure his checklist is pretty big. So yeah, if it wasn't Boggs, I probably would have be going Yastrzemski.
Yeah, good answer. I love it. Okay. Troy wants to know, are all those library drawers filled with Boggs cards?
Not yet. I don't know if you can see there. There's 90 drawers. Mike Baseball Collector has the Beast.
Yeah.
I just have the card catalog. It's not very as exciting, but 90 drawers. I am probably a little over halfway filled, and that's my Boggs cards.
Well, and so did you ever talk to Mike and say, hey, you got the Beast, which is well known in the hobby, everyone knows he's got the Beast. Why don't you have like the mini Beast or something like that? Did you ever talk to him? But does he have trademark on that, or?
I don't know if he has a trademark. I'm fine with the card catalog. It's fine. But yeah, it could be the mini Beast.
But his is handmade by him and his father, right?
I watched the videos. I wish I had the talent to do something like that. I have it up here, but just not the skill to actually or the tools to do it. No, but I got these at a library auction and got a great deal on them, and they are perfect. The only things that don't fit in there are PSA slabs. Beckett slabs fit for some reason, but the PSA slabs are just a little bit. I don't have too many, which is good. I'm not that into PSA graded or generally graded Boggs cards.
Yeah. Fair enough. Criminal Mind just wants to approve your answer. The Gwyn was the greatest pure hitter of his era. Yep. Vintage Card says, meet the player first. Great call, Jeremy. I mean, thank you, Vintage, but not often that easy to do, right? Maybe not realistic in many cases, especially if you collect a player who lives far away or who's still in their career and isn't signing at card shows or making appearances. So I think
the other thing to do is collect someone who has passed away. Then at least you have that, unless you read some tell-all biography, you still have that aura or image of how great that player was, and you can't be disappointed.
Exactly. They can't disappoint you, right? Yeah. You should probably know everything about them. Daniel makes mention that Jordan Binnington, the goaltender for the St. Louis Blues, just got engaged to his cousin. Maybe that seems like a good reason to collect his cards now. See, that's, to me, maybe. I'd almost feel a little weird about, like, wouldn't that be weird at a family event, though, when you're like, hi, Jordan,
can you sign my card? I don't know, but yeah,
a couple. I think it's nice to have a couple, but I certainly would. I don't think I could see myself turning into a super collector of someone in my, that married into my family or something like that. Not nothing against it. Go for it. But anyway, maybe. But I think having a couple cards is almost like a no-brainer at that point, for sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure. Mike Wick says, I met Pete, I think he's talking Rose, at the Pasadena, Texas show last weekend. Great guy and should no doubt be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I'd sign that petition for sure. Yeah,
Pete was at the National, and I just saw he was at one of the normal booths, just sitting there. And I looked at him, I'm like, what's Pete doing there? And it wasn't like a big line. He had a ball in his hand. I think it was maybe going to be signing for someone. He was just talking baseball, and there were like just a couple people hanging around the booth, just like nobody's business. I'm like, yeah, Pete Rose is just sitting there talking and stuff. And so, yeah.
Daniel clears things up that he was joking about collecting Binnington's cards. Well, so we're on the same page then, Daniel. Yeah. And I know Daniel personally. I know that he's too cool for that anyway. Tyler says, I'd say Beast Light, but Milwaukee's Best Light already owns that nickname. Yep. Amish Dave Archer wants to know, is everything insured? And he says, because, with my 1 billion player collectors, I'm always nervous about weather or disaster wiping the collection out. So yeah, How do you approach that for yourself, John?
Yeah, I have in my homeowner's insurance, there's a small rider that I have, but it's small. So I actually do have specific insurance for my card collection. And I think when you've built up a collection like mine, just over the years, you just don't want to see something bad happen to all that effort. Now, I'm not worried about flooding because I'm on the second floor of my house, but you never know, storm damage, other things, heaven forbid, theft, all that stuff. I can be covered. And for the annual premium, it's worth it in my opinion. But
it is. And not to rain on your parade, but I mean, let's be honest, for all of us watching right now, and you and I who are watching and participating, if our collections were to get wiped out for whatever reasons and we were compensated for their value, I mean, we'd still be disappointed, I think, because
it's not about the money. And to be honest with you, if I had to sell everything today, I try to buy on the cheap. Okay, my friends know, my fellow collectors know I'm a cheapskate. Okay, and because with my budget and stuff, but I know that even with the money that I've put into my collection, if I had to sell everything, especially all at once, I probably wouldn't get back what I had into it, especially the desire, the longevity, the passion of it. Yeah, I may get a check at the end of the day, and it's like, I don't know. I'd be disappointed, and it would actually be hard. Because someone had asked me this before. Well, if something like that did happen, would you start all over again with Wade Boggs? And I don't know. Not that I don't. It would just the daunting task of knowing that this was 23 years in the making. To know that even if I had all that money, you just can't quickly just buy all that stuff. And some of the stuff is so hard to find. Like, I don't know if I could ever replace that card because it's out of 5, produced from 2005, and I may never see another copy again. I don't know. I may just decide to just go into vintage cards or something else. I don't know. I don't even want to think about it.
No, but I was just looking at my schedule of prior guests, and I was trying to see when it was. So back in April, I had on After Hours, I had a guest by the name of Milan on the show. He's known as Kobe East Coast on Instagram. And he went through something similar, although it was deliberate, where he collected Kobe Bryant for years and built an amazing Kobe Bryant collection, like something that any Kobe collector or even Jordan or LeBron collector would be very envious of right now because of just the particular cards that he had. And in his life, and this is another great collector episode back then. Again, this was on After Hours number 30, which, by the way, tonight is After Hours number 50 that we are on. So this is the 50th time we've done this show.
Wow.
Yeah, and 50 is an anniversary number, so happy to spend it with you tonight.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's my anniversary. So anyway, Milan was a collector of Kobe, and he ended up buying a house for his family. Sold his Kobe collection to facilitate that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he then became a collector again. But he said, and I asked him in the show, we talked about it, he said now he collects Derek Jeter. And he does not collect Kobe. And the question arises like, well, how do you not collect him? You put your blood, sweat, and hobby tears into it for the first segment of your collecting career, and now you're just going into someone totally different. And his answer was basically that, like, it's done. Like, I got to do something different now, and I could see when you were just thinking about it, it's an emotional thing as well. Like, I'm done. I don't have those. I built it. I got to move on to something different. So I understand your hesitation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense to me. Bobby Burrell says he sold an unusual Wade Boggs painted photo baseball 5 years ago. Wonder if John purchased it. Could that have been you, or maybe that was Rich?
I bet you that was Rich, because I've seen painted photo baseballs, and I do not have one. I think I nearly bought one, but I think Rich probably has 5 or 6. So my buddy Rich probably bought that from you.
Very cool. Very cool. Pick in Messenger. Okay, let's see, Bobby. He just sent me a picture of it. I'm going to show it. Maybe you've seen it in Rich's house where you just were recently.
Yep, I think he does.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yep.
See how this is all real time? We're talking. Bobby sends me a pic. I can show it to the world. That's so funny.
Yep.
Thanks for sending that over, Bobby. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about your, and we can come back to collecting Boggs and being a player collector and all that, but let's talk about your collecting experience itself and your YouTube experience is really what I mean. When did you start in YouTube and why did you start doing YouTube with your own channel?
I've been on YouTube creating content for a little over a year and a half now. And for the longest time, I was in my own little bubble other than my other Boggs, collecting friends, just building my collection, going on eBay. I don't really have a whole lot of card shows in my area, so it's mainly eBay. And I was just doing my own thing, just going along. And about 2 years ago, I don't know what prompted me, maybe something on a Facebook page or whatever. I started watching some YouTube channels on sports cards. I'm like, wow, they have a cool collection. Oh, well, that's pretty cool. Look what they got in the mail today. And it just, then I started realizing there's this whole other community out there. And I was like, that is really cool. And I'm like, I could probably do that. I could maybe show off some of my Boggs cards in my collection and then this and that. And I got my inspiration from two main channels, Mike Baseball Collector and the John Mangini collection. I started watching their videos and others as well, but I kept going back to the two of those videos and just saw how they did the videos and stuff. And I'm like, yeah. So I got the stuff, I got a camera, and I got this or whatever. I'm like, okay, let me start. And I just started off showing different Wade Boggs cards and this, and it's just expanded. But the fact that I'm on YouTube now just has made my hobby experience just so much more exciting and enjoyable because it's not just me doing what I'm doing. I get to share it with others and see others' collections and how they're building their collections, see the excitement that they have for a card that they just added to their collection. I've got to see some really cool cards, envious of many other people's collections that I see out there, and the interaction with my comments on their videos or their comments on my videos, and then to get to meet them in person at the National. It's just opened up a whole new avenue of my collecting enjoyment. And I guess that's the best way of putting it, of being able to be on YouTube.
What was your social media activity like before YouTube? Did you do any hobby stuff like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter?
Yeah, I did. I was on Twitter. My friend Rich and I formed a Facebook page for our joint collections. We're both hosts, so we both post stuff on that. I started something on Instagram, but I've had more interaction, I guess, on Twitter with different people's posts and stuff. And that was a start. That was my sort of an introduction of other world out there of collectors. I've actually been posting a Wade Boggs card of the day on my Twitter and Instagram and Facebook for probably 7 years now, straight, every single day. I may have missed, I calculated, I may have missed 3 days in like 7 years. And I've been going in order. I started off with my 81 TCMA minor league card, and I'm just getting up to the year 2000.
I just want to say, sorry, John, I just want to say that you are a model of consistency and discipline. I mean, the way you've missed 3 days there, you stick to your budget, that's well done. Very, very, very impressed.
Well, I call it insanity, but you can call it whatever you want. No, you just get, for me, I get into a routine. Oh, it's noon. Before I eat my lunch, I got to post the card of the day. I mean, seriously, that's like, forget that. I got to post my card of the day. And it's just a routine I've gotten into. And it's funny because as soon as I post it, because I normally do it around noon, Wade Boggs usually checks his Twitter account probably around that same time. So one of the first likes I get on my Twitter post of the card of the day, I see, oh, Wade Boggs liked your tweet. So that's cool. That's cool that he sees the card of the day every day.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit about just, I guess we kind of touched on it already, but actually let's take this angle. So I want to get more into the community, the friendships you've made, the relationships in the hobby, but let's take it from the angle of this national, this last national that we were both at. We didn't meet there, but, and just like when you do YouTube, as you've done it for a year and a half, and actually Mark says that would be March 2020. That's how it feels. Sounds right. So nice to know that he agrees with when you started. Yep. But a lot of the interaction that we've had on YouTube and you've had is just virtual, and then you go to the national and you meet all these people, or many of them, in person. Speak to that a little bit, John, just about like the community, the friendships, and then the transition from these relationships simply being virtual to now meeting in person, and how that went down for you and how it felt.
Yeah, it was weird. It was exciting at the same time, because again, a few of them I've spoken to on the phone, so it's maybe gone a little bit beyond just virtual of YouTube or text messages or something like that. And sometimes it's a couple of times it's been a shock, because I'm not a tall person. I'm maybe 5'7", maybe if I'm lucky in sneakers. And I attended this Thursday night YouTube get-together event. And it's hard to tell. People are sitting in chairs. Sometimes you don't even see their face in these videos. And my goodness, so many people were so tall. I'm like, wow, you're the one I see on. So that, and there was a good icebreaker and opening up. But it's the fact that all of those guys were just so nice and real, and exactly how they portrayed themselves on their YouTube videos. So it wasn't this facade that they had on YouTube and doing this and doing that. And then when you meet them in person, sort of like collecting a certain player, you get to meet that person, live in person, and they're what you expected it to be. So that was one exciting aspect of it. And just the casual talk. I mean, you're meeting a somewhat stranger, someone you've interacted with a little bit, but you instantly have that common bond of collecting sports cards, and you immediately can go in. You have stuff to talk about, and if you get to know them long enough, you get to talk beyond that, their jobs, their life, and stuff like that, and actually get to know them a lot better than you can on just the interaction on YouTube comments or something.
And eventually they become a groomsman in your wedding party, which is a real testament to the hobby. Yet again, I'll mention that. Here's a question: Criminal Mind, off topic, wants to know, how did Wade Boggs get the nickname the Chicken Man? Did he really eat chicken before every game?
Jim Rice gave him the nickname Chicken Man because, yes, Wade is very superstitious. He had, when he was with Boston, I think it carried on to the Yankees and Devil Rays, but I forget the exact times, but he would take batting practice at a certain time during the day, or so often before the start of the game. He'd take ground balls at a certain time of the day. He'd write the symbol chai in the batter's box every time. He had all these rituals, and one of them, I think the story goes, if I have this correct, he was in a little minor batting slump. And he went out for lunch before the game or something like that, and had some chicken. And that day he went 3 for 4 or something like that. And the next day he ate, and it's just like, hey, and just from then he literally did eat some chicken before every game. And so Jim Rice gave him the nickname Chicken Man.
Okay, there we go. There you go, Criminal Mind. Back to the National. How many have you been to?
This year was my third. 2015, 2019, and this year. I'm thinking about, since it's a lot closer to me, I'm thinking very hard, and probably will go to Atlantic City next year. It's just a matter of being able to save up some money to be able to actually buy stuff there. Like I said, I kept telling people when I was telling them about the National who didn't know about cards and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to this thing and I'm bringing what I think is a decent amount of money for me. I said, but I could walk up, go to the first table, hand the guy all my money and walk away with one card and say, that's it. I mean, just like that. It's just.
Let me ask you this. Let's say you couldn't let me ask you this. Would you go to the Atlantic City National if you could go with no money to spend on cards, but just to go see all the people in the hobby and your friends?
Yes. It's to that point, especially given this year's National and it wasn't just that Thursday night get together, but prior to it and after that, throughout the convention, I'd be walking around and I'd bump into someone would bump into me and say, hey, how's it going? Hey, did you get anything today? And just my previous trips to the National, I just walked around myself. It was just me. I had a great time, but I was by myself. Here, this National, I felt that it was more of a community group thing. And so, yeah, even if I didn't have any money to spend on cards, I'd go just for the interactions and meeting up again with all the people that I met this year.
Yeah.
It's to that point. Yeah.
It's to that point, right? It's the annual summit for all of us.
It's the get together now. It's not just the National, it's the get together.
It's not just about the cards, right? It's not just, you can still go there and just have a great time hanging out with people and, and
look at some great cards and some great memorabilia. I mean, it's the stuff that you'll never see in person. You can see them in an auction book or on eBay, but in I think it was 2015, I think it was, maybe 2019, some dealer had the Honus Wagner for sale in his display. And I'm like, wow, you have a Honus Wagner? I'm like, any chance I can take a look at it? And he said, yeah. I'm like, so he got it out of his case and he let me hold it. And I turned it over. I think he wanted 700,000 or something. It was a 2, I think.
Deal.
And yeah, he actually took it out, let me hold it. He knew I was not buying it, but it's just one of those things that I got to hold a T206 Honus Wagner in my hand.
Yeah.
Where else are you going to do that?
The National.
I've
held 3 Honus Wagners at Nationals. One was the Atlantic City in I believe that was 18. And then in I think it was 2013 in Cleveland. It was either Cleveland or Baltimore, and whatever year that was. I held 2 at the same time. One of the auction houses, I forget which one, had 2. And I took a picture with them. I can't find the picture, and I was probably on an old computer in my old computer bin that I'd have to revive and find. But yeah, that's
I think I still have that picture on my phone. And when I posted it to, I think at the time it was just Twitter, I forget, someone commented, just put run. I'm like, yeah. So
right. Yeah. No, don't. That's bad move, bad move. But I get it. I want to say hello to Transparent Grading Team. They've been joining us the last few weeks. Good evening, gentlemen. If that's Anthony, hello, Anthony. Craig says, did Wade Boggs really drink a case of beer on flights or before and after games? Would you know the answer to that?
That's the story. And the actual number is, I think, still under debate. I think he doesn't necessarily want to talk about it that much. I've heard as much as 107 in one day. It was, early in the day and on the cross-country flight from, I want to say he was with the Yankees, maybe.
Sorry, 107 beers in one
107 Miller Lights. Supposedly that's, yeah.
How does your bladder?
In fact, they did It's Sunny in Philadelphia. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There's a sitcom or whatever. They actually did an episode, and they have some people do annual contests where they try to drink as many beers as Boggs did in a day. It's the Boggs Challenge. I don't, it's fun, but I'm not really interested in all that stuff yet. But supposedly the number is 107 in one day.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Daniel says, I hit it another home run with John as the guest tonight, pun intended on the home run. Yeah, I mean, this has been a very pleasurable evening in terms of just relaxed episodes. Both Reed and yourself are a really nice to have on. So I'm glad that I'm glad that actually that we made this happen, John, because it was kind of not you weren't an expected guest for me, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, you actually, how did this happen? You
I
actually
reached out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had Mike Baseball Collector on, and I watched that episode, and I said, "Wow, hey, that's really cool. The interaction between the two of you." He was talking about his vintage collection and other aspects of the hobby industry, what's going on, and all that stuff. And I think that was before the National.
Yes,
I think you had aired that, and I just reached out there. I think I just did a comment on, "Hey, Jeremy, that was a great show. If you ever want, someone, the aspect of like a player collector, let me know." And you reached out, said, "Yeah, hey, that'd be great to have you on sometime." And here we are. So,
yeah. No, I'm glad you reached out, because it's exactly what it's exactly the kind of episode that I feel the show needed right now. There's been so much action in the hobby over the last
so much
couple
news.
of months.
It's just all the turmoil and stuff that we don't know how it's going to shake out in the next 3, 4, 5 years. And sometimes it's just nice to, again, just chat about what's good about the hobby, and not all this, who's taking over this and how's it going to affect that. And just have a nice chat about the hobby that we love.
Exactly. So I want to ask you, you mentioned that you've been married this time now for 3 years. Your new wife, 3 years in, she obviously knew what she was getting with you, because she saw this room or whatever, your collection.
And she still married me. Yes.
She still married you. So how, I think a lot of us male collectors, we have significant others, and we need to find a way to convince them that it's okay and let us spend our money on it, that kind of thing. How did that work out? Tell us the story from how did you integrate her into the collecting part of your life?
Well, as we started dating and getting to know each other, we learned about what our interests and likes were and stuff. And I said, yeah, I've been collecting baseball cards since I was, 6 years old. And it's a big part of my life. I mean, this isn't going anywhere. And she's like, well, okay. And she learned to appreciate and because she loves me, she said, hey, this is what you love, so I want to support you in that, which is just amazing. And it's more than just, I know collectors where their wives are just don't I don't want to see it, I don't want to hear it, just do what you want to do, as long as you pay the bills, I don't care, I don't want to have anything to do with it. To the other side with my wife, and I've given her compliments on my YouTube channel all the time. She not only just lets me collect, just say, she I don't want to say actively participates, but she supports my collection, has actually bought stuff for my Wade Boggs collection for Christmas or birthdays. And I have my checklist on a Google Doc. And so she has access to it. And she took it upon herself. I showed her, okay, here's the checklist. Here's a tops, this or whatever. And here's how you find it on eBay. And she took the time and effort to go through. She first started just buying Wade Boggs cards for me. And she's like, well, do you have that one? I'm like, yeah. Oh, do you have that one? Yeah. And she's like, well, I don't want to buy you cards that you already have. So again, she took it upon herself, and I just have to give her props, because she puts a lot of time and effort to try to find cards that I don't have on my checklist. And she searches eBay. She's reached out to my other Boggs collecting friends, to Rich and some of the others, if she's stuck on something or wants to make sure, hey, is this what I think it is? So I am extremely, extremely lucky.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, of course she's going to reach out to Rich. Rich was in her wedding, so it makes sense that she has that relationship, which is great that she actually, my wife always wants to know what to get me for my birthday or Father's Day, and she never can. But she says, I won't buy you cards. You buy your own cards. It's not, not
or here's money, you buy what you want. I have no idea what you're. My wife went to the National with me this year. And one is just a little vacation. What?
I was gonna say, how did she like the National itself?
We went the Thursday, and she actually went to the YouTube after party because I'd watch these videos in the living room, and she'd hear these people talking on the videos and stuff, and she's like, yeah, I'd like to meet them. And there's one in particular, Pepino Man, who is, he goes, she's like, I have to meet Pepino Man. I'm like, he's not going to be like, I talked about personas. He does some crazy stuff just to have fun on the videos, but he's actually a down-to-earth great guy. But she's like, I need to meet Pepino Man. And she did. And she was overwhelmed at the show, but sort of in a good way. She wasn't bored. She wasn't like, oh, when can we leave? And she was just like, oh my God, look at all this stuff and the prices. She saw a couple of Mickey Mantles. She goes, $85,000. I'm like, yeah, and that's only for a 3, or so. And yeah, she was exhausted by that day. It was a full day, but she enjoyed it because she actually wanted to go. One day, I didn't push my luck and say, hey, you want to come back again? But yeah, she had a good time.
Good. That's great to hear. And on your channel, you documented your national experience, and she's in the video with you, so you can actually see her in taking it in, which was cool that she came with you. I thought that was awesome. So yeah, kudos to her. I want to say hello to Mickey Pasquarello. Welcome back, Mickey. Thank you for joining. Great to see you. Criminal Mind says, I hate to admit this, but Boston has the most passionate hardcore sports fans. Yeah, I don't think I don't know how much argument you're going to get from many people for that comment there. Love what you collect. I love the story. Your wife seems amazing. Very, very nice.
Everyone asks if she has a sister. No, she doesn't.
That question's coming. Tyler says, it's awesome that she supports your collecting. My girlfriend once snuck off at a card show to buy me a 56 Clemente, most important card in my collection. Nice. That's a good girlfriend, Tyler. Very, very good. Is she still awake, or does she still want to know what the deal is with this Wade Boggs guy? Mark says, Criminal Mind, what about New York, the Yankees and the Rangers? Talking about the fans. Todd says, once the wife sees the dollar aspect of it, once you die, they are all in. Once you die, they're all in.
Well, you talked about insurance. The other thing that, again, you need to think about is a will and what happens to your collection. Now, my wife knows that my collection is going to go to my son. I mean, he's at one point, he's in college now, but at one point he had interest in baseball cards, but even when I started this whole thing and had a child, I only have one son. She knows that it's in my will. My entire collection is going to him, and he can do whatever. If he wants to sell everything, that's fine. I'll be gone. But it's another thing to think about in addition to insurance.
Yeah, it's a good call out right there. People and hobbyists need to know. And I don't know if there's a dollar value sort of that level that you'd say, okay, if you have a collection that's worth $10,000 or more, maybe depends, I guess, what your whole situation is, but whatever's significant to you, it's good. It's really important to have a plan if something happens to you, that what is going to happen to your collection, especially if you have a family. You don't want to leave that in limbo. You want to set your surviving spouse or family up with some pretty clear instructions, I would say.
And if not just who gets the collection, but if you have a significant collection, to provide them information on who to go to, say, hey, contact this auction house, or do this or do that. Set things up, because especially if your spouse has no idea what's in your collection. Oh yeah, he just does this. I have no idea. He has boxes of cards. I have no idea what he collects, right? And then you pass away, and she goes, I have no idea what this stuff is. How am I going to sell it? Okay, yard sale. My wife jokes about whenever I go on on a trip or whatever. She's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll do good at the yard sale. 25 cents a card should do good. And I'm like, yeah, no, she's joking. But it's also good to let them know how to go about selling or liquidating the collection, where to go, who to talk to.
In my papers, I have instructions with exactly who to talk to make sure that you do as well as you can on this stuff, and convert it to cash in an optimal sort of way. So Kevin says, I'm surprised she likes it. the national. I mean, hey, people, there were a lot, another YouTuber, Dustin, the personal finance dad. I don't know if you're familiar with Dustin, John, but his wife was at the national with him, and she had a great time.
Yeah.
It was nice to see.
Yeah. I saw other, it is heavily male dominated, this hobby, but
oh, really?
I saw a lot a good number of women there, collectors and stuff, and which was great to see. Absolutely. And yeah, again, the attitude that my wife has about this, she wants to learn about this hobby that I enjoy so much. And she actually was looking forward to that day, and yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the women of the hobby, which is also the name of a YouTube channel run by Sam Schuford. But the women in the hobby got together. They had an event at the national. They were like, I don't know, I saw a picture. It must have been 40 or 50 of them, which were hanging out, which was really cool for sure. And yeah, I just thought that was amazing. It was really nice to see that. So okay. I'm kind of looking at the notes that I had here, John. I think we've hit just about everything that we were kind of planning to talk to. You know what? One thing I'm going to ask you, because you sort of touched on this, but I want to make sure that you touched on it to the extent that you wanted to, because this is something that you brought up, which was how your mindset can change from being a player collector or collecting only one player to adding another genre like vintage to your collecting. And I saw you put out a video just yesterday or today on your channel about your new collecting focus. So for people who are maybe strict player collectors or just looking to find to add a second sort of direction, can you speak to that for a couple minutes?
Sure. I previously mentioned how I was collecting Boggs, and I wanted something else because it was my acquisitions were slowing down a little bit. And I still wanted something else to collect. Moving from like a player collector to some other form of collecting, you still have to have a focus. And it is slightly a different mindset from a player collector to collecting something else. So my other something else is vintage Hall of Famers. And I quickly realized the difference, because with a player collector, you're so narrowly focused. You're just looking for cards of that player, and it's easy to have that focus. When I moved to something else and said, okay, I want to focus on vintage. Well, to me, vintage is 1980 and back. So I was like, oh, well, okay, well, my focus is just Hall of Famers. Well, that's okay. That's easy. Well, it wasn't, because I started looking through listings and, well, do I want this 1974 card, or do I want this 1957 card, or the 62 card, or, what do I want, this player or that player? And I quickly realized that it was just too big, right? So I had to get a focus within that new area. And so I'm like, okay, let me start with some 78s and 79s. I'm putting together a raw 78 set. That was the first year I started collecting. It's special to me. So I want to put a nice hand set together. So let me start with 78s, maybe 79s. So again, I focused on getting those Hall of Famers. I'm not quite got all of them yet. And then as that sort of dried up a little bit, I'm like, well, let me go 1980 and then open it up to 77. And so I've slowly, as I've gotten more and more of those cards, opened it up, because to me, it was like a mini national. There were so many Hall of Famers from 1980 and past that I could go after. There's just so much to go after. I couldn't decide what I wanted to get. I couldn't pull the trigger on anything. It's like, well, if I buy that, then maybe I can't buy that. Well, do I want that card, or do I like this other one better? And so, yeah, even switching from a player collector to even something else that sort of has a focus of what you think is another focus, you may have to adjust that to realize, okay, I'm taking on too big of a project. Let me chop it down into bits or something like that. The other thing was with the last video that I posted was a new project. of, okay, yeah, I may want their Hall of Famers, their playing day cards, but what about modern cards? I have some modern cards, but I'm not really into modern cards, current players. But some of the newer sets have the veterans in them. So I'm like, okay, well, and I think Mike Baseball Collector, someone sent him a Jackie Robinson from, I forget what year, 20 something, one of the short print variations. And I'm like, well, that's cool. Well, maybe I can add that to my vintage, still keep Hall of Famers, not very expensive. And so I was like, well, wait a minute. There are a bunch of products. Stadium Club comes out with great images of veterans in their normal set. Alan Ginter, Gypsy Queen, they all have featured veteran players, a lot of Hall of Famers. Mm-hmm. So when I first thought about it, I'm like, wait a minute, again, that's too big. What can I narrowly focus on? So I said, let me do the short print image variations that Topps put out in its flagship. So I put a checklist together, and even there, there's several hundred of them. So that's a good small little project. When I get done or close to being done, then maybe I'll buy some Stadium Club. Maybe I'll go through the Stadium Club checklists of the Hall of Famers and maybe go and collect them. But you have to take small little bites, at least for me, on a budget.
You know, when you're collecting a player and then you're looking for, you're kind of, when the buying frequency, you know, kind of slows down, you're a collector. Like, you are a collector. You will find something else to, just like we're human. We need to eat. We will find something to eat. You will find something. Yeah. You will find something to collect. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so you just got to find something that works. It sounds like you've been able to do that. So that's pretty cool.
It's like an addiction. You need your fix. It's like, okay, if I can't buy these cards, what else can I buy?
Yeah.
I know if I can't get this, what else can I buy? Yeah.
So I just want to call attention to Kevin Furt has a Wagner PSA 10. Well, I think Billy Wagner Billy Wagner PSA 10, probably about $50-$60, Kevin, I would say. But good luck with your sale, for sure. Good luck with your sale. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to talk about, John, before we wrap up? We're already at an hour.
I think, and I've mentioned this on my channel before. Again, there are so many different ways to collect. Now, I'm a player collector mainly, but you could be a team collector. You can go after autographs. You can go after rookie cards. So many different aspects. But to me, if you want to be a collector, now I'm not talking about the investors or flippers or breakers or all that stuff, but for collectors, one, it's best to have a budget so you don't get over your head, and you need a focus. You need to have that area. And again, it can start off small and then it can grow. But for me, it becomes a lot more difficult if you have such a wide net that you're looking at, because there's so many options to buy cards, and you just get lost, at least for me. So my suggestion is, again, try to have a reasonable budget, spend within your means, get your bills paid first, and then what you have available, put toward the hobby that you love, and have a collecting focus. And most of all, have fun. I mean, just enjoy. So many people at least enjoy what you collect and collect what you enjoy and all that stuff. Just have fun. This is a hobby for most of us. Okay. Some of it has a business, but this is supposed to be fun and enjoyable. And just go out and enjoy what you have. Don't get jealous and that, fear of missing out and all that stuff. Enjoy others' collections for what they have. Enjoy the collection that you have and the time and effort that you've put into it. Have fun. And as I think Mike Baseball Collector says, keep collecting.
So. Well said. Yeah. I don't know if I could put it much better than all that. So yeah, well said. Well said. All right. Well, we'll just go to a few more comments, but I'll encourage the chat. If you have any final comments, questions, get them out now, please. We have a couple that have come in, so let's have a look at these. Craig wants to know, what is the most expensive Boggs card ever sold? Do you know what that would be?
Most expensive Boggs card ever sold was probably in a raw copy, probably the 96 Select Mirror Gold. Those tend to go raw for, I think the last one went for over $600-700. Now you get to some one of ones. Okay, that may be up there as well. Graded copies, I think there was, the PSA 10 Topps rookie cards had been going over 1,000, 1,500. There was a Beckett. I think someone had a Beckett 10. Or maybe it was just a 9.5. It was something really, the pop is a lot lower than the PSA 10s. That one, I think, went for a few $1,000. That would just because of low pop.
That'd be a BGS 10 for sure for that price. Yeah. So he's an affordable, relatively speaking, an affordable player to collect. Yeah, which is always a good entry point. A lot of people want to come in and collect, LeBron James or now
Mike Trout
or Connor McDavid, Mike Trout, Tom Brady. I mean.
That's another thing. If you want to be a player collector, again, think about how many cards are out there, what the competition is out there, because more competition means you're bidding and having to bid higher to win the cards, and what the cards are going for, and your budget. So again, if you want to say, boy, I want to start a player collection, who should I go after? We talked about liking the player, getting to know the player, so you don't get disappointed. But also look at your budget versus what the cards are going for. I mean, again, someone starting off and saying, I want to be a Derek Jeter, Mike Trout player collector in baseball, you better have a pretty healthy budget, because an auto card, right off the bat, if you want a auto card, you're looking at $300, $400, $500 minimum.
Yeah.
Just right off the bat. And I can get a Boggs auto card, depending on what it is for, I bought ones for $15, $20, depending if they're serial numbered or not.
Yeah.
So big difference.
Big difference. And you were talking about like how much competition is there for players. Well, the more popular the player, the better the player, the more stardom they have, the more competition there is. I also wanted to make a comment on, you said, there's so many different ways to collect. You can be a player collector, a team collector, a set collector. I don't know if it's infinite, but there's so many different ways that you can approach the hobby, and you can build your own, you can formulate your own custom set that you want to just, the PSA set registry has been a good way to, I think it's sort of facilitated a whole bunch of new sets and players and, all-star players that have all-star Golden Glove players, 500 or 300 home run players, 3,000 hit players, all these different things, there's so many different ways for sure. Rock Latex says, what were the two cards that you bought back when you sold? You mentioned one already.
Yeah, the 1954 Topps Ted Williams number 250. Love that yellow border. And 1960 Topps Stan Musial. I had the Willie Mays. I haven't bought that one back. But those were the two that I've bought back in my collection.
And Purple Haze says, do you have a favorite year that you're collecting the SPs in? I think the photo variants.
Yeah. Just starting off, I don't know, the 2019, 20, and 21, the base design of those cards compared with the vintage images that they use, I think it's a great combination. Looking at like 2009, this basic set design wasn't my favorite, so even adding those vintage players, not as attractive. But I would say like 19, 20, 21, those were some pretty good design years aesthetically.
Right.
For me.
Yeah. Very cool. Very good. Thanks for the question, Purple Haze. So before we do sign off, John, I do want to just mention to the audience, the chat, and to everyone who's here. So, glad you all joined tonight. And if it's your first time watching the show, if John brought you over here, I want to thank you, John, for letting your audience know that you were coming. I appreciate that. And if any of them are here and are interested in subscribing to Sports Cards Live, I'd love to have you and welcome you to the SCL community. We got a great chat here every Saturday night. And I also, if people weren't here, I don't think I mentioned it yet during After Hours, but I mentioned a couple times on the earlier show with Reed. I'm really excited, and I just want to let everybody know that I'm now going to be hosting another show So I got Saturday night Sports Cards Live, and then Sports Cards Live After Hours, which I've been doing now for a year. After Hours is a year old now this month. And well, the Sports Cars Live show is almost a year and a half old. But in any event, I'm going to be now hosting a show on Sunday nights, but not on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be hosting Collectible Live on the Collectible YouTube channel. This is Collectible here, the fractional ownership company in our hobby. I've basically signed a deal with them to be the host of their show, their live show, going to be starting tomorrow night. The first episode will be tomorrow night. And we'll see how it goes. But it's supposed to be 20 to 30 minutes long, so much shorter than I'm used to. John, if you've seen much of my show, you'll know that I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do my best to keep it within the timeline that they want it to be. But I'm really excited about that. I think it's super cool that they approached me and liked what I've been doing on Sports Cards Live for the last year and a half, and said they wanted me to host a show for them. So I'm super pumped about it. Really excited. So want to welcome really invite you all to watch that. Subscribe to the Collectible YouTube channel as well, if you are willing to, and see how that show is going to go. And then lastly, Whatnot. Whatnot is the live streaming app for breaks and showing cards and doing singles auctions and that. I had their CEO on the show, or one of the founders, about a month ago, Grant LaFontaine, and those guys are now going to be partner of the show. We're going to be collaborating together, and I'm excited about working with Whatnot. I like what they're doing, and I really like the team there. So want to let everybody know those two kind of new announcements for myself and the channel tonight. So there we go. John, thank you so much again.
My pleasure.
It's been great having you. I'm going to read the final comments, and we'll let you say goodbye and good night to everybody. But Purple Haze, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Vintage Cards, glad to have you along for tonight for sure. Jonathan Allen says this is the backbone of the hobby. That's awesome. Thank you. Wonderful. That's high praise right there. I hope it's for me and John, because we got hopefully it's for me, John and me, I should say, right? Because the collectors are the backbones of the hobby, I believe, and John is certainly that. So that's awesome for sure. Craig says, who is the guest tomorrow on Collectible? The guest. So again, the show's gonna be a bit different than how this one is structured, and I'm gonna be I've had a new idea actually during this episode tonight. I've had a bit of a new idea on how I want to tweak what I was planning to do on Collectible Live tomorrow. But we will be having a guest every episode. Whether they are there the whole time or for a short time is yet to be determined. However, it's going to be Lou Papa, who is someone who does some work with Collectible and was the subject of the Hobby Dons episode.
Okay.
Yeah, of which we had the writer-director Aaron Rich on After Hours a week ago today. So yeah, Lou will be joining on the Collectible Live tomorrow. It's supposed to be like a 5-minute interview, but I might see if I want to expand it to keep him on for maybe even the duration of the show. We'll see. I got to talk to the Collectible guys as well about that. Thank you, Steve Sir. Thank you, Jonathan Allen. Thank you, Mike Wick. Appreciate having you. Says, John, I am enjoying looking at your Wade Boggs Instagram posts as we speak. And Rock Latex says, Jeremy becoming the Brian Gumble of the hobby. I don't know about Brian Gumble. That's a big name. But hey, I will tell you guys, though, that when I started talking to Collectible, they first asked me to do something a little bit different. I said, you know what, that's not really, wouldn't be authentic for me to do that. Not that it was anything bad. It was like, we want you to be an analyst and have a segment on your show talking about, maybe just kind of providing some information on what's going on. I said, you know what, I appreciate it, but I'm not an investment advice guy. I don't want. So they said, okay, well, we'll think about something. We'll let us come back because we want to work with you. And they came back and said, okay, well, we want you to have your own show on our channel. Yeah. So, okay, that works. Great. That's really cool. So
yeah. Well, you need to speak about what you know and what your knowledge is in the hobby. Like I said, I couldn't speak about top 10 players to invest in today. That's not my focus. That's not what I'm into. It's not what I'm looking at. Again, you have a great channel here with your guests and the hobby insights and the insiders and collectors and stuff. So yeah, glad you're able to do what you're good at doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And it's the angle I'm going to take is not so much to say, because what I want to do, I want to cover the IPOs that they're going to have in the coming week. So here are the cards that they're IPOing, but I don't want to get into the, they're selling it for X amount and comps are this, and I think it's going to be worth that. And, your return on investment is going to be this or that. I want to talk about the card. I want to look at it, talk about the corners, the edges, the registration, really
the history of the card, the intrinsic value, what it brings to the hobby, how important it is to the hobby.
Exactly. The importance of the card within the relative
how iconic it is.
Yes. Yeah. That's the angle.
Because they deal with high-end purchase. I mean, these aren't just like basic cards. These are the most sought after cards in the hobby,
I think so. They do some memorabilia. They've got, they do, it seems like it's, $20,000 and up is kind of what I've seen, but you're investing $5 to $25 a share sort of thing. And I've always thought that ever since the fractional company started coming up in the hobby, I've always thought it was a good idea. I know not everybody does, but I think it's a good idea. It's not for everybody, and I understand that. And a lot of people want to hold the cards that they own, and that's fine too. But some don't. So I think there's a place for it. I think it's cool. I think it's a natural evolution.
I think it's the next step from memorabilia in cards, because I own some Wade Boggs game used bats, but not everyone can own a Joe DiMaggio game used bat. But you can buy a card with a small piece of that
fractional.
Bat.
That's fractional.
It's fractional. Now, it's more tangible. You can hold it and look at it. But I think it's that next step, that digital, if you want to call it, step that some of the card companies or the industry is going into with these NFTs and all that stuff, that's sort of a little bit over my head. But it's that next logical step of owning a share of that card. You can't touch it, but you own a part of it.
Yeah. I agree. It's even for myself, I've always said I would invest in fractional units, and I'm going to once I can, based on the geography, my location in Canada. So, and I always would. It's not like I'm going to stop collecting cards. I like to have my cards too, but I'll probably never own a PSA 8 or 9 Mickey 52 Tops Mickey Mantle.
Yep.
Although maybe I'll own a 1 or a 2 one day, so I can maybe have that instead. But a Tito 6 Wagner, for example, never going to have one of those. So, but hey, to have a piece of one, that'd be pretty cool. I'd be more than happy to add shares to my portfolio of investments. To me, that's more of an investment than a collection. Well,
can't you buy a share of the Boston Celtics or the Green Bay Packers?
I believe so. Yeah,
at least the Packers. I'm not sure about but I know the Packers. You can own a share of the Packers,
and it doesn't give you access to the locker room, right?
Right, or automatic, autographs of all the players or something. You just say, "Hey, I'm a part owner of the Packers." Right. I don't see it's the same thing to me, I guess, but
yeah. So anyway, I just thought I wanted to mention that because I'm excited to start that, and we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and but definitely kind of a neat thing to be asked to do something like that for a third party. Thought it was pretty cool. So Mike Wick, thank you, appreciate the congratulations. Lapper says fractional is a very interesting piece of the future of the hobby. I appreciate Jeremy being an OG, but seeing the ultimate evolution. I think I know what you mean, Lapper. It is just a next step. It was bound to happen. You can buy lots of things fractionally, like shares of companies, real estate, timeshares. It's all fractional. But in any event, I certainly recognize it's not for everybody. But I think it's neat, and it's going to be fun to follow along with their offering. So, all right, I guess that's it. Yeah, this has been fun, John. Thank you again for taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's nice to have, again, a different section of the hobby, the collector. And if I can end with anything, again, it's being a collector is one aspect of the hobby. There's no one way to go about it. Do what you enjoy, whether it be a player collector, team collector, vintage, modern, fractional ownership, breaks, flipping, whatever you want to do, the hobby's big enough for everyone. So just go out and enjoy.
Well said. And I think we'll end on that note with one little addition that I think the hobby is big enough for everybody, and it's only seems like it's just going to get bigger with what is all going on. Okay, final comments and we're done. Thank you, Lapper. Appreciate it. Mike Wick says now we need an after hours. Yeah, that's what created after hours in the first place. Fellow Flyball, thank you very much. Lapper says you nailed it, Jeremy. It's not for everyone, but a very cool thing that allows low dollars into monster cards for sure. All right, everybody. Thanks again. Hopefully, we'll see you on Collectible Live on the Collectible YouTube channel tomorrow evening. If not, we'll see you back here next Saturday for the regular episodes of Sports Cards Live and After Hours. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for joining. What a enjoyable evening this was. See y'all next.